One of the first people to make the jump from WWE to TNA on their own volition was Kurt Angle. Now, Kurt had been asking for time off from WWE to deal with some personal stuff. Vince wasn't letting him have it, so he got out of his contract and he went to TNA. And there's a lot of people, Matt, who would argue that Kurt's body of work in TNA is even stronger than his work in WWE, and he became the ringleader for the company. How significant was Kurt's jump over to TNA in terms of setting a standard for talent in the wrestling industry and opening up minds to the idea that this is a place I could go to and find some success?
It was a big deal. I remember when Kurt debuted on TNA. They announced Kurt was coming to TNA and debuted. It was very impactful, and I thought it was going to be a big deal. I definitely think it helped elevate the status of TNA. It made TNA more of a legitimate player in terms of like being a place where you can go and like be looked at as like a serious wrestler and one of the best wrestlers in the world. Like Kurt had so much equity behind his name then, and he really did. His body of work in TNA was fantastic. It was phenomenal, right? So yeah, I thought it was a big deal, and I think Kurt going there is a huge turning point, which helped elevate and add a lot of equity to TNA as well.
Why do you think he was so successful there?
I just think Kurt was just such a natural in pro wrestling, the way he picked things up. You know, I was with him in his first couple dojos whenever he was, first really learning the ins and outs of pro wrestling and how this stuff works. And it was crazy because it was so different from anything he's ever done, because he's like a legitimate wrestler, a legitimate athlete, right? Who just does stuff on the real. So just the way he picked all this up, and then he picked up the entertainment aspect, and you can see that over his first few years at WWE, and just he picked it up so quick. He was an anomaly, man. He was special. People just don't, great athletes like him that are legitimate, they just don't pick things up like that. You got him and Brock Lesnar. They're two of the best ever to do it because they were, anomalies. So I think he does this. He goes through WWE, and then once he comes to TNA, there's a lot more freedom. You get a much bigger say in what you do in ring, even character wise to a degree. And I feel like Kurt was just able to take those opportunities to not have any parameters drawn around him, and he went nuts. And I think that's why he excelled so well.